Hello everyone, I'm Alicia. For this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make another hair barrette. This is the 5th hair barrette tutorial that I've made. If you haven't seen my other barrette tutorials, I will leave a link down there for you in the description bar so you can see all the hair barrettes and other hair accessories that I've made. So for this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a barrette with coin-shaped beads. This is the first barrette that I made, and this one I made with actually acrylic beads. They kind of look like they're stone, but they're not. And I really loved how this turned out, but I wanted to play around and experiment with more sizes of the coin-shaped bead. So this one here I made with 12mm quartzite beads that I found at Michael's, and I really love how it turned out, but I wanted to see what smaller beads would be like. So I made this one here with 10mm candy jade beads. I got these from Lima Beads, and I really loved how it turned out, but just to really point out to you guys, if you're using 12mm, you have to use 5 of them. If you're using 10mm, you have to use 6 of them. Now, I tried going bigger than 12mm. I tried using these 14mm dragonfly beads that I found at Michael's. They were black and silver. I showed them to you before in a previous video. And I bought them specifically for this, but they wouldn't work. They were too big. I just could not get them to work. So you want to stay with a 10mm or a 12mm bead for this project. Over here, these shell beads were actually 11mm, and I knew that I would probably be a little bit short because of that, so I tried using a center bead here. This is a rose bead. I forgot to measure it. I found this rose bead at Walmart in the dollar bead bin. They usually have 2 flowers in a pack for $1 with a few other beads in there. So again, these are 11mm, and they were able to work because I had that bead there in the middle. This one here, oh, by the way, I got those shell beads at Michael's a while back. This one here, I used these rainbow calsilica beads that were sent to me by a viewer, and I just love them to death. They are the coolest looking beads on the planet. The flower beads here I got at Hobby Lobby, and the rainbow calsilica beads are 12mm, okay? But the flower beads are 10mm, but I was able to get it to work because the flowers, if you look at them, they're 10mm from hole to hole, but the top, you know, where the petals are at, are flared out. So that made it work. I was able to make that work because of that. Now, I have had this nice lady sent me some really small barrettes. She didn't know what to do with them. I usually make these barrettes in the bigger size because a lot of us have thicker hair, you know, that we're putting our barrettes in. So she sent me some small barrettes a while back, and I think she sent me like 10 of them, and every time I do a video, I try to do a miniature version of the larger barrette. So this one here I made with 6mm coin beads. These were flower, and I only had 5 of these, and I thought that all 5 would work, but I could only get 4 in there. But yeah, this one I did with 11O seed beads. All the other ones I did with 8Os because it really worked best because of how they filled in between the coin beads. So yeah, this is my miniature version of the barrette with some really small coin-shaped beads. So for this tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to do this. It's really fun, and I had a lot of fun experimenting with the different sizes of coin-shaped beads. So let's get started. Here's the list of materials you will need to make a barrette. You will need 3.5 feet of 0.010 bead stringing wire. Again, you will need 3.5 feet of this size here. You will also need a French barrette, and I'm using 3 1/8 inch. And you're also going to need 8O seed beads, and I really liked using the Czech Preciosa for this one. This was the cheaper brand. I just sifted through and I got the ones out that were uniform, and this is vintage Venetian seed beads in that one there. Now, for your coin beads, you do have an option. You can do 5 12mm coin beads, or you can do 6 10mm coin beads, or, to make it real fancy, you can do 3 12mm coin-shaped beads with 2 10mm flowers. So, I got my flowers from Michael's. If you don't have any, I think it's 7 of them for like $4. That's the regular price. I do get mine on sale. But I recently found out that you can get about 20 roses for $5 on Amazon. So it's much cheaper on Amazon, and there's a nicer color selection if you guys want to go that way. And plus, it's free shipping if you have Amazon Prime. Okay, now you're also going to need, and actually this is sort of optional because I didn't use them in that one up there, the first one that I made. I'm also using round beads. These here are 3mm. This one I did 4mm, so you can do 3 or 4mm. It kind of depends once you get most of the barrette made, and at the very end when we go back to fill in the edges, you can play around and see what you like more, 3 or 4mm beads. And these metallic beads that I've used in all my barrettes are not metal. They're actually plastic beads that are coated with a metallic finish, and I prefer them over metal because they don't tarnish like the metal ones do. Okay? So again, these are 3mm, and you can also use 4mm. You're also going to need crimps, and I'm using number 1 crimps because that's what's recommended on my wire. And I'm also using chain nose pliers to smash my crimps. You don't have to use a crimp tool for this. You can't actually get in there and crimp the crimps with a crimp tool. You have to use chain nose pliers. You're also going to need tweezers and a cutter. This one coats really close. I love these. And you're also going to need a ruler, and that's it. And remember, I always put the material list down there below the video, and I'll also do the material list for this little barrette here if you want to make the smaller version of this. So I went ahead and I cut 3.5 feet of my wire, and I'm going to start by picking up a 3mm round and slide that down to the center. And I'm going to put my ends together, and I'm going to take both ends and put them through the hole here on the top of my barrette, okay, just like this, and pull this through. Don't pull it tight. You want to make sure that your ends are even, okay, and make sure that the bead is centered in the center of your wire, okay, and then you want to hold it like this. You can see I have my barrette there. I'm holding this bead between my thumb and index finger. I'm going to hold it just like this. My ends are even, so my wires are parallel to each other, and I want them to stay like that. So I'm going to take one of my wires, I'll take this one here, and I'm going to pass through this bead, pull this through, but not all the way, just like that. I want it to be loose. Okay, then I'm going to take the other one, and again, they're staying parallel to each other, and you'll see that when I go to let this go. Now I'm taking my other wire and I'm passing it through the same bead but in the opposite hole. So now I have what looks like this, okay? So now I'm going to find my ends again. I'm going to make sure that they are even at the end, okay? And then I'm going to stretch this out, and I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to go like this and loosen this up, okay? And then I'm slowly going to slide this down, keeping my ends even because we need them to be the same length. Okay, so slide this bead down just like this, okay, and then once you get the bead down, go ahead and pull both sides tight, and you want this bead to be centered just like that on your barrette. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm using the 12mm. I'm going coin is what I'm talking about. I'm going to pick up 4 8/0s on both ends. Okay, 4 8/0s just like that. Slide those down, and then I'm going to pick up my bead here, my coin bead, and I'm going to crisscross through it, both of my ends. And if you're using shell or gemstones, you might want to check both sides of the bead because sometimes one side is prettier than the other, or you may like the color more, the pattern more of the stone on one side. Okay, so I just crisscrossed my wires through that and I brought it down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this in place just like this with my thumb, and I'm going to pull these 2 wires tight just like this, okay, pulling them tight as I can. I'm then going to take one of my wires, and it doesn't matter which, because right now they are the same size, and you want to hold this bead still. I'll try to use my finger now. And you want to take the wire, I'm coming out of this hole, I'm going to pass through the same bead, but I'm going to go through this hole right here, okay? So I'm exiting out the same side again, and what we're doing is making a loop right here, and we're attaching it just like that. I don't know if you could see that, to the barrette. Okay, see my loop right there? Just like we've done before in previous barrette videos. And now I'm going to pull both of my wires very tight. Okay, and we now have this. So see how I didn't put the wire under here? You don't want to do that under this side yet, because of the hinge that's right here. When we put our bead on, the hole is directly over this part right here of the barrette, over the end. So you want to wrap your wire around this end. Don't go through this gap yet, because it will not work out. You're going to have to take it back apart. So make sure that when you put on your first bead that you attach it right here on the end of your barrette, okay? So now I'm just going to pull these tight, and tension is very important on this. When I first started experimenting when making this barrette, I used monofilament because it's cheap stuff, and I experiment with my designs and my patterns, and I'm trying to get it to look nice. And if I don't like it, I could take it apart and redo it again, but monofilament is very slippery, it slides easy. But the Tiger Tail, this nylon coated stainless steel bead stringing wire, is not slippery. It's hard to get it tight. It doesn't want to slide very well, so it could be a little tricky, okay? So I just picked up 4 seed beads, 8 again, 1 on each side, or 4 on each side, and I'm sliding those down. And then I'm going to pick up my 3mm gold round bead, and I'm going to crisscross both of my ends through it. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this gold bead to this barrette. Now I did the same thing on all of my other barrettes except for this one. This one was so tiny, I didn't find the need to attach the seed bead right here, where the X is at, to the barrette, because it was so small it was actually warping the top of this. So I just wanted to let you know, if you're doing the tiny barrette, you can skip this step and only attach the larger beads. But if you're doing a bigger barrette with the 10mm or 12mm coin beads, you want to attach this section right here, because if you don't, these beads will pop up in between your coin beads and it's not going to look good, okay? So after a lot of experimenting, I discovered this. So again, I'm going to pull this tight, just like this, use my thumb to hold it down, pull your wires out, and one of them will be longer. As you can see, this one here is longer. You're going to take the longer one, and this one here is my longer one, and you're going to pass the wire underneath this part here of the barrette. We're going to catch this. Okay, make sure that you don't grab the spring or this part here, and if you want, you could take those 2 pieces off, but I really didn't find it necessary for this barrette here. It was just fine working with it on, okay? So now I'm going to take my wire and pass through this bead to secure our beads here onto the barrette, okay? So just like that, pull this through, and before I pull it tight, I'm gonna go back and I'm going to grab these 2 strings, pull that snug as I can, hold it with my finger like I'm tying a shoe, and pull this side down, okay? And there we go. You can see that it's tighter. Now, one thing that I did have problems with, and I'm going to let you know about it, because actually this happens with all jewelry making. Whenever you're doing when you wrap it around the barrette like that, sometimes your wires will twist, and if you pull this down, I don't think this one's doing it. Actually, it is doing it, and I'm really happy so I could show you guys. Okay, so see how I pulled this down? This wire over here is wrapping around the wire that's attached to the barrette. Can you see that? What it's going to do is it's going to make this warp. So all I need to do to fix this problem, so there's no warping, maybe you can see it here, I'm going to take this wire and pass it under this wire here, pull that through, and it should stop it instantly. So you see that now? It looks perfect. That's how you want it to look. Make sure that it does not twist around your wire because it will cause problems. And we don't want to take it apart and remake it again. Okay. Pull that tight. That looks good. And now we're ready to continue. So again, I'm going to pick up 4 8/0 seed beads on each end. I got 4 on this side, 3 and 4. Okay, 4 on each end. Slide those down. And then I'm going to do my flower bead. Okay, so as you can see, the bottom of the bead, see how it's smaller from this hole to this hole? I measure it with my caliper, and it's 10 millimeters, but the petals are wider. It goes out further, but we're not measuring that part. We're just measuring from hole to hole because that's how you're supposed to measure a bead. And because it is flared at the top with the petals, it worked perfectly for this. So those are 10 and those are 12. It worked really great. Okay, so I'm putting this bead on and I'm pulling it tight. Okay, and again, I'm going to hold it just like this. Hold my flower, grab my wires, pull it tight. Okay, one may be longer, one might not be longer because we just did a few wraps there. Okay, so I'm just going to take one of them because they're both the same length. I'll take this one here. I'm going to wrap it under this part of the barrette. Pull this through. Okay, so it looks like that. Then I'm going to take my wire and pass through this hole. So I'm exiting back out the same side. And again, before I pull it tight, I just like to sit it down. Pull the 2 strings tight first. Okay, and then pull the one that I had there that was the one that's going under the barrette. Pull that one tight last. Okay, pull this very tight. We need it to be very tight. And now I have this. Okay, so now I have to finish going around this rose. And to do that, again, I'm just going to pick up 4 8/0s on each end. Okay, 4 on each end, slide those down, pick up a cross through bead, which is my 3 millimeter round, and crisscross through that bead, just like that. Pull that down. Okay, again, I'm going to hold this tight, hold this in place so it doesn't get loose on me. Put my wires together. One wire will be longer. Take the longer one. Okay, my longer one's on this side. I'm going to pass under the barrette right here. Grab that wire as it comes out. And then I'm going to pass through this gold bead. Okay, and pull that through. Okay. And again, I want to make sure that it's not twisting on me. And it's not. It looks good. Okay. So one issue that I also had, that I had a hard time fixing. See how this is going over to the side? It's not centered in the barrette. I've tried holding it like this, you know, because the side that's not underneath, you push that over the barrette, the side, the wire's not underneath the barrette, and then you pull the other one tight, but I just can't really seem to get it centered. But it seems like when I just continue weaving it, it gets better. Okay, so again, I'm going to pick up 4 seed beads, 1 on each wire, 4 8/0s, 2, 3, 4. I'm so terrible with my left hand. Okay, 4 on each side. Slide that down. And then I'm going to get my next coin bead, crisscross my wires through this bead. These are called Amazonite. These beads here, they're really beautiful. I also got these from Lima Beads. Okay, so I'm pulling this tight and I'm going to try and straighten that out. Okay. Okay, so now what I have to do again, hold this down, just like this. Hold it down. See if one of my strings are longer. They're both the same length, so it doesn't matter which one I take. I'll take this one here. I'm gonna pass under the top of the barrette, get the end, okay. Then I'm gonna pass through the coin bead again, and I'm gonna come out the side over here that I'm using. And before I pull that tight, I'm gonna come back and pull my other one tight, and then pull that tight there, okay? So see how it's not centered on me? It's driving me crazy. Okay, it will be hidden though. When we fill in the sides, it'll pull it together more. I think it's doing that though because of the wire. When I did it with monofilament, I didn't really have that problem because the monofilament is so slippery, and this stuff is not slippery. So I'm just going to continue weaving. Again, I'm going to pick up 4 8/0 seed beads, 1 on each end, or 4 on each end. There's 4, 4, and 4. Slide that down, and then I have to do my 3mm bead. And I'm just going to pull this tight, and then pull this tight and bring this down. Okay, and again, you want to tighten it like that, hold it under your finger, find the one that's longer. This one's longer. I'm going to pass under the barrette right here, grab my wire, okay, and again, I'm going to pass through this 3mm bead, just like that, and again, I'm going to tighten this up, just like that, and then pull that one side tight. Okay, so now I have this. Okay, so I'm going to pull this really tight. And again, as you can see, it's not centered there. But that's okay. It's going to look nice when we're done. So again, I'm going to pick up 4 seed beads again on both ends. 4 and 4. Slide those down. I'm going to pick up my rows and crisscross through it. And before I pull that tight, I have to pull this tight again because it gets loosened. You'll see how it loosens up when you make one. Okay, pull this tight. Actually, am I having a twisting problem? It's hard to tell. My camera's in my face. Actually, no, it's not twisting. Or actually, I think it is twisting. Yes, it's twisting. Okay, so I'm going to take this off. My beads are running away. Again, pull this down. I didn't see that. I didn't see it because I didn't pull it tight. But this side here is twisting under that wire. So I'm going to fix it by going underneath of it. Just like that. And there we go. That makes a big difference. Okay. So again, I'm going to pick up 4 seed beads on each wire, just like that. Slide those down, pick up my rows, crisscross my wires with the rose bead, slide it down, pull this tight, just like that. Alright, And again, I have to attach my rose to my barrette because it's wobbling all over the place. I'm going to pull it tight, hold it like this, see if one of my wires is longer. This one here is longer. So I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to pass under this bar. Okay. Pull this through and then pass through my flower, making a loop, attaching it there to the barrette. And again, I'm going to pull this tight and then pull my wire that I went under the bar with tight. Something else I wanted to point out to you, when you do that wrap around your barrette, you may notice that you might catch onto a seed bead on the sides there. It's going to be this one seed bead. That could also happen. So as you do this, pay attention to that you don't catch onto that, okay? Okay, now, now I'm going to pick up more seed beads. Again, I'm going to do 4 8/0s on each end, just like that. I have to close my flower up because I just added that on, so I'm going to pick up a round bead, crisscross the round bead, and again, before I pull this tight, or before I pull the bead down, I'm going to pull this tight for the flower, and then I'm going to pull this down and pull that tight. And now what I have to do, again, is attach this bead. So I'm pulling this tight, then I'm going to hold it in place, find the longer wire. This one here is longer. I'm going to pass underneath this bar, okay, so right here, underneath the bar, pull this out, take the wire, and pass through the gold bead. And I gotta make sure that I'm not twisting it, so I'm gonna loosen this up and pull it tight. Let's see. Is it twisting? Nope, it's not twisting. But it is going off to the side. That drives me crazy. I wonder what's going on. It's doing that because I'm using the wire. You know, it's stainless steel nylon coated wire, and the wire does crimp easily if you're not careful, which I should have talked to you more about that, but I have talked to you about that in my previous barrette videos. But if you haven't seen them, then you don't really know that. So I always try to be as informative as I can, especially if you've never watched any of my videos. Okay, so I'm just going to continue weaving this. It should straighten out on me. Make sure that you're not caught on that spring there. See how I'm just below that bar? Okay, now I'm going to continue weaving. I'm going to pick up again 4 8/0 seed beads on each wire. Just like that, slide those down. And then I'm going to pick up my coin bead. Bring this down. Pull this tight. And then bring that down. Okay. Let's see if I can move this gold bead over. Okay, it just moved over on me. Yeah, a little bit. I think that what's going on is because I'm using the wire, when you bend this wire, if you bend it, you know, in half or at like a 90-degree angle, it will keep that bend in it. So I think that when I pull it tight, it wants to stay on that bend against the barrette bar, if that makes sense to you. So anyways, I just put this one on. I'm holding this tight. This one's longer. Now I'm putting the last coin bead on, okay? So now over here we wrapped around the end, and I found that I had to do this with all the barrettes that I made. I had to put the first one on by wrapping it on the end and the last one. Now if you look here, our holes are actually right now on the inside of this, but don't worry about that. See how this bead is bunched up and this one's bunched up? That's because I have to pull them this way. So in order to do that, I'm going to attach the coin bead right here against my buttons on my barrette, okay? And it will stop that from bunching. So I'm going to pull this tight, take one of the strings, they're both the same length, and pass through this bead, okay? And then wrap the wire just like that around the end of the barrette and pull this tight, okay? So it looks like that. And then I'm going to pick up my seed beads. I need 4 8/0s on each end. Okay, I got 4 on that one. This one has 4. 4 and 4. Slide that down. I'm going to pick up my cross through bead and slide that down too. Okay, so wrapping this around there is making it go this way, and also once we get this bead attached to the end, you can push all of these over to the other end, and that helps. And also when we fill in the gaps here, that also makes our beads sit flat. Okay, so I'm pulling this here tight, and I have to attach it to my hole here. And it's going to be similar to how I did it over here, but of course it's going to be different the process of doing it, but it's going to look the same when we're done on this side as it will on this side, okay? So, pulling this tight, hold it just like this. I've got to make sure that this part's staying tight for me here. Let's see, which one was that? It's this one. Okay. So I have to make sure this wire that's wrapped around the bottom, sometimes it wants to come loose. Okay, because we're at the end and it's pulling towards the other end of the barrette. So, pulling this down. Just like that. It looks good. So now what I'm going to do is take my wires and I'm going to pass through right here, just like this, okay? And then I'm going to do the other side, passing through this hole on the bottom of my barrette. Now, this took me a while to perfect. Doing this end right here, if I didn't do this end right, it would be very loose. And like I said, the wire is keeping its shape if you bend it. So, if you don't do this end correctly, you may have to redo it. But I didn't have any of these problems when I did the monofilament. But the monofilament isn't as strong as this wire. This wire is much stronger and it holds up forever against the metal barrette, okay? So I'm going to go just like this. Okay, my wires are coming through here. Actually, I'm going to crisscross them so I can pull it tight. And then I'm going to make them parallel to each other. And my bead is a little small and it's sinking in that hole. Okay, so now I have this. Now I'm going to take one of my wires. I'll take this one here. So see how they're parallel to each other? I'm going to take this wire here. And I'm going to pass through this round bead. Just the round bead for now. Later on we'll go through the seed beads, but for now we're trying to get the tension right on this, okay? So, going through the round bead, just like that. So now you can see the loop on that side. Don't pull that tight yet. Then take the other side, pass through the round bead also. Just like that. Okay. So before I pull these ends tight, I want to loosen this back up. I'm going to put my fingers in these two loops. I'm going to pull this tight as I can, okay? Just like that. Then I'm going to hold these seed beads and the 3mm bead in place, and then pull these ends down. Just like that, okay? Then I'll pull both of them down, and I want my wires to rest on the end of my barrette, not on the side. And pull it really tight, and they'll come together just like that, okay? And this worked out perfectly. I took my time and I got it right, okay? So now what I'm going to do, after pulling that tight, I'm going to fill in the sides here. And this is the time where you figure out what size round bead do you want to do. Do you want to do a 3mm? Maybe you want to do the 4. Just figure out what you think looks best. You could probably also just do the 8/0 seed beads if you feel like when you put an 8/0 seed bead in there. And by the way, I'm passing my wire through these beads here so I can fill in the gap. Okay, so I just went through those 4, and I went through these 4 now. So now both of my wires are exiting right here at this gap. So see this gap here? This is what I'm talking about. You could do a 3 or 4mm in there. Sometimes it seems like the 4mm is just a tad too big. Then you'll want to go to a 3mm. But if you don't have many rounds, you can try doing 6/0 seed beads, or even just an 8/0 seed bead there. This one I just did all 8/0s in that gap, and even here I did 8/0s. I only did this rectangle bead in the middle as my metallic bead for that barrette. Okay? So now I'm going to put these in. I'm going to put these in around my coin bead, and the seed beads I'll put in between right here, okay? And I also have a gold bead beside my rose. So here I'm going to pick up a coin bead, okay? I'm going to pass through just 3 of these seed beads, and this is where we're going to need our tweezers. I went through these 3 here. I'm not going to go through this one. I'm skipping that one because, see my wire? This space right here, that's where I'm going to put my 8/0 seed bead. So pop that bead in place. Turn this around. I'll do the other side. I picked up my 3mm, and I'm going to pass through these 3 seed beads. And again, take your tweezers. Pull that through. Just like that, okay? And I'm going to pull this snug, and it looks good. I'm going to continue. I'm going to pick up my 8/0 now, and I'm going to put it in this tiny little gap. And I did it different ways. On this one here, instead of doing an 8/0, I think this is a 2mm silver round ball. I did there, in between there, and this one I had these like rice beads, and in between, instead of doing the 8/0 or the 2mm, I actually did a 4mm because my gap was really large there, so I was able to do that. And then you could see here I just did the 8/0, so you can really play around with this and come up with some really neat looking barrettes. I just love showing you guys the alternatives. They don't all have to be made the same way, okay? So I picked up my 8/0, I'm passing through there, just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to go to this side. Hopefully this is going to help with my beads shifting to the one side of my barrette. I'm going to skip over this pink one and go through these 3. Okay, and I'll use that to lift my bead up so I can pass through. Okay, then I'll grab the wire with my tweezers and put that in. And I'm going to pull this tight on both sides. So that did really fix our problem there that we had adding those on the side. So again, I'm just going to continue on doing this. I'm beside my rose again. I'm going to pick up a gold 3mm and pass through 3 8/0 beads, just like that. Grab my tweezers and pop that in place. And then I'm going to do an 8/0, skipping over the first one there. Actually, we're skipping over 2, but I'm counting the first one here because it's in our next circle. Okay, we're going to pass our wire through here. I went through 2 that time, but I'll come back and get through that third one. Okay, and through the third one. Then I'm going to pick up my gold 3mm round, pass through these 3 8/0s, use my tweezers, it's like we're making a little nest for these beads to nestle in, to sit in just right. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going filling this. I'm going to put another 8/0 right here. So again, I'm going to skip these 2 8s and pass through these 3. And I try to go to 3 at one time because it's faster than going through 1 and then doing the next one. And plus, you'll kink your wire a lot if you do it that way. Okay, so here I am at the rows, and that means I need to put in my 3mm bead. I'm going to pass through 3 seed beads again. This one here is really close, so I just push that out with my tweezer. Grab my wire, pop that in there. Okay, and I have to pick up another 8/0 and put it right here. Pull that through. Okay. I have another gold one to put here. I'm going to pass through these 8/0s. Okay, I'm just going to leave this string here for now, and I'm going to finish this side. I have to do a gold one here at the rows. Again, pass through 3 seed beads. These tweezers are so helpful. Pick up an 8/0 seed bead. I felt like I didn't need the tweezers for the ones that I did with just the coin beads, because it really seemed like it was the flowers that were holding me up from grabbing my end of my wire, because the flowers, they hang over the seed beads and it's hard to get in there and grab the wire. Okay, I'm going to put a 3mm here. Lift this up so I can pass through. Grab this wire, put that in place. This is how it looks so far. I need another 8/0 right here. I'll need my fingernail to get in there and lift that bead up so I could pass through it. Go through these 3. Doesn't want to go to the third one. Okay, so I'm putting that one on there. Then I have to pass through this third one here that I couldn't go through. And then I'm going to add my 3mm bead. Oops, almost dropped that. Okay, and again I'm going to pass through 3 8/0s, and I'll have to get in here and that easy to grab. Okay, so I went through one needle. Now I have to go through two more. Grab my wire. It fell out on me. Okay, there I go, I went through it. Now I have to put a seed bead right here. So I'm going to pass through these 3/8 again. And because that rose is there, it makes it a little hard to go through all three at one time. So I'm just going to go through two of them, and then I'll go through the third one. And my little 3mm beads over here trying to run away from me. Put that right here. Pass through these two. Okay, I'm going to get to that gold bead. That's where I need to be at. Pass through that gold bead. Okay, so that one's through the gold bead. Now this one I have to get through that gold bead as well. Okay. I don't want it to go through those seed beads, just to, well, I have to get through this seed bead of course, but I need to exit out of the gold one. That's my goal. Okay, just like that. Now I'm going to pull this tight. And now I'm going to go back and fix this up because we did so much moving around on this that it has warped it a little bit. Okay, so see how this gold and the seaweeds are hanging over here, but over here you can't even really see them? Go ahead and slide. If you have that problem, slide it over so your beads are hanging over evenly on both sides. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull this tight. Okay, and it looks pretty good. Just takes a little bit of fidgeting. Okay, so now we are ready to not tie knots. We're going to use crimps. We're ready to finish it off with crimps over here on this side. So now we are ready to crimp off our barrette. So in order to do that, I have both of my wires exiting out of this 3mm bead, and what I'm going to do is take the end of one of my wires, go underneath the barrette right here, and come out this hole. Okay, just like this. Make sure this doesn't kink on us, just like that. Take the other one, and again I'm going to go under the barrette right here, and I'm going to come out this hole. Pull this through. So now I have this, okay, these two wires just like that. I'm going to take one of my wires and pick up a crimp, and by the way I'm using two crimps because two I always feel is more secure. Whenever I use one crimp I always break the crimp, so if I use two I have a backup. So I have one crimp right there. Okay, I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to pass underneath the barrette, but I'm going to go underneath the entire thing. I'm not going to come out through that hole, and I'm just going to pull this through. Okay, so then the crimp is sitting right there, as you can see, on the end of the barrette. Now I'm going to take my other wire, pick up a crimp, my second crimp, slide that down. I'm going to pass under the barrette the same way I did on the other side. Okay, just like that. So now you can see I have my two crimps. Now what I'm going to do is pull both of these snug. Okay, and it went too snug actually. I'm going to take my crimp, fell in one of the holes. Get my tweezers and fetch it out. You know this hasn't happened this whole time, just when I go to film it happens. Okay, so see how my crimps are standing up like that on top of the barrette? I'm going to take one of my wires and pass through both of these crimps. Just like that. And then I'm going to do the same with my other wire. Pass through both of the crimps. Like that. And then pull this snug. And you want to move the crimps towards each other so they're touching. Okay. Like this. But I want my crimps to touch. Okay. Now I'm going to get my chain nose pliers and I'm going to crimp them. I'm going to do one at a time. I'm going to slide this more towards the center and crimp it. And crimp this one too. And then I just go in there and I crimp both of them. I have to go in there at different angles because it's such a tight area to crimp them, and I just smash them down. Okay? And now you can go ahead and trim off your wires, or if you want, you could try to attach them down more, but it's not really necessary. But that's up to you. I'm going to go ahead and trim mine. I'm going to make sure that they're completely smashed. Okay. And then I'm going to go in there and trim them with my cutters. Okay, and there we go. We have a finished barrette. One other thing that I noticed when making these, mostly with the gemstones and the shells, I noticed this with. The shells, I had a lot of them that were like this. When you look at the bead, okay, I wish I had one. Oh, maybe there's one in here. When you look at the bead, this one's actually really good shape. When you look at the bead from the hole, okay, I noticed that some of the shell beads and the gemstone beads will be thicker, like on one side, like over here. Actually, this one is like it a little bit. This one is thicker on this side than on this side. So, when you go to put it in your barrette, and if you have the thick side like this, because the barrette is rounded, it's not completely flat. If you go to put this on, and the thick side's over here, it's going to tilt up like this, okay? So, this one here, if you look underneath, this one's doing it just a little bit because it's rounded. This one is not that bad, but this one over here, I noticed that it's thicker on one side, and I just couldn't help that because all of my gemstone beads weren't perfect. But it's no big deal, but that's just something else I wanted to point out to you guys. Because if you make your barrette and you notice that one side is standing up, it's probably because it's thicker on one side. And if you have a lot like that, you're probably going to want the thicker side right here in the end, and then the thinner side on this, on the inside right here, so it sits better on the barrette. Anyways, it's just something else I wanted to let you guys know about. And here are all of my barrettes. I had so much fun making these. I love them so much. They're so pretty. So this is it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like this video, leave me a comment, subscribe if you want to see more of my videos, and like me on Facebook. And don't forget to share pictures of the jewelry we've made from my videos on my Facebook page, and follow me on Pinterest. Thanks for watching.